Hello, everyone. Hello. Can you hear me? Um, Today I'm not working at my homes. I'm actually outside, so I must apologize for some of the noise. Okay. All right. So if you guys have any problem, if you guys have any difficulty hearing me, please just let me know, and I will try to just move around, to justify the location where it's quiet enough for me to conduct my lecture. All right. Okay. Please just let me know if the noise is getting too loud. All right. Otherwise, I will uh continue from where we left off. Okay. Right. Just give me 1 second. Let me just try to relocate myself. All right. I'm just going to I- all right. I think this is better. Okay, so I'm about to share my screen with you guys. Right. Okay, now you should be able to see what's going on my screen right now. Just going to switch to Dropbox real quick. Okay. So, just for the recap, all right. Previously, what we did was we were last time we began our chapter 2, and we talk about what is a business statement and how we can write one. Okay, how we can um create our own thesis statement. Okay, so basically, thesis statement is the main idea of your article, of your essay. Okay, and this main idea needs to be developed further throughout your entire article. Okay, if you guys remember the question that we were brainstorming earlier was about whether we should ban cigarette advertising to reduce the nicotine addiction rate, right? If you guys still remember that question. We did some brainstorming, okay? But we didn't really come to conclusions about whether it's a good idea to follow the advice, by banning cigarette ads to reduce the addiction level, or there is actually better ways to deal with this issue, right? We did not arrive at the conclusions just yet. Okay. Um, but anyway, once we are clear with our decision, we then need to select supporting points. Okay. Right. And the supports will goes into the body paragraph. So the support would make up major supporting idea. Okay, major supporting idea, minor supporting idea. Okay. Um, the number of major supporting ideas and minor supporting ideas can go on and on. Okay, there's no ending to it. Okay, it really depends on how much you can generate during brainstorming. Okay, but when you write, you want to select some of the most convincing supporting features. Okay, you don't have time to write everything. Okay, and of course, your readers do not have um, forever to read your essay. Okay, so you want to select the most um, convincing support to back up your claim. All right. Okay. So today I think I would like to share with you how we can create simple outline for our essay writing. Okay, so I think I'm going to stick to the same questions that we did some brainstorming. Okay, because we already have some idea, so we don't have to start all over. You know, we can just jump right in to the stage of outline. Okay. All right, so allow me to just uh switch to another blackboard. All right, let me just pause this video just for a minute, just for 1 minute. All right, here we go. All right. So I hope you guys still remember the questions that we did, I think, last week. Okay. So just to walk you through a little bit of what we did. All right, we did some analysis of the questions, so we know um, what the main claim is. Okay, so basically we have issues about nicotine addiction. That's based on what we have learned from reading the questions, right? There's the problems about high level of nicotine addiction, and they believe that cigarette advertising was the major factors of this issue, and it was suggested that cigarette advertising should be banned to reduce the level of nicotine addiction. Okay, so when we did some brainstorming, we came up with some of this idea to support the idea of banning cigarette advertising. Okay, so for example, we believe that cigarette advertising can cause addiction because it arouses the curiosity of young people. All right, and okay, and how does the banning of cigarette advertising lower the level of nicotine addiction? Okay, so this is another key question that we must be able to answer if we want to support the idea of banning cigarette advertising. Okay, so last time we say that by banning cigarette advertising, um, we can reduce the teenagers, of course, exposure to act of smoking. Okay. And so, and with a less exposure to smoking, they might feel less curious to um, follow the behavior. Right. Okay. Another important questions that we must be able to answer if we want to be a supporter of the idea of banning cigarette ads is that we have to be able to come up with some of the benefits of banning cigarette advertising. And I think from the last time, we could not come up with anything. Right. As for objections, so for those of you who want to go against the idea of banning cigarette advertising to reduce the rate of addiction, some of the key questions that you should be able to answer is how is it or in what ways is cigarette advertising not the major cause of nicotine addiction, right? In what way is cigarette advertising not the major cause of nicotine addiction? Okay, so From the last time, we believe that cigarette advertising might not be the case because a lot of young smokers can be found in countries such as Thailand, where the ban has already been in place for a very long time, right? Okay, what are some of the other contributing factors of nicotine addiction? So we should be able to answer these questions as well if we believe that the advertising of cigarettes is not a major cost. All right, so we have to be able to tell people. So what are the causes, right? If cigarette ad is not, then what are the causes? And we came up with the two main factors, I think, social environment, and the other one is lack of regulation. Right. Okay. So based on what we were able to answer previously, okay, we should then be able to explain why is it that banning of cigarette advertising is not going to work out. It's not going to give us the result that we expected. And that is because, since there are multiple factors and cigarette advertising might not be one of them, given the fact that countries where the ban is already in place, right? But there still exists some of the young smokers. All right. Okay. So because of that, um, for those countries who do not have probably the okay, so those countries that do not have the policies in place, right? If they choose to do this, they might not get the result that they expected, and that's the reasons why we should not adopt this strategy. Okay, so if you were able to criticize the proposed solution, the proposed solution is not good enough, then we we have to be able to propose better solutions. Okay, so last time we were able to come up with things like parental guidance. So basically, getting the parents to educate the young children on on how to make friends. Okay, schools should also be able to um, help. Uh, schools should also be able to help young people to understand the harm of smoking. All right. And um, last but not least, the government should also be able to impose some regulations to control access to cigarettes for young people. So things like age restriction, marking up the price of cigarettes can really might do the trick. Okay, right. And okay, I think this is what we did the last time, and this is just an example of a possible main idea. So banning cigarette advertising might not be enough to stop young people from nicotine addiction. This is just one example of a main idea. So in this case here, we don't really agree with the idea of banning cigarette advertising. Okay, so this is a good outline, and we have three major supporting ideas, one of which is that the addiction to nicotine could stem from any other factor. So in this, if we were to develop a paragraph for this, we know exactly what the main idea of this paragraph be about. Okay, so this paragraph will be about other factors, right, that could contribute to the addiction. Okay, and for the support, we basically talked about things that we came up with, like social environment, lack of regulation. So those are the key factors that should be blamed for the addiction. the second major supporting factors is about the criticisms of the proposed solution. So we basically is going to talk about why banning cigarette advertising might not be effective enough to prevent or to stop, young people from becoming addicted to cigarettes. All right. Okay. And the third major supporting idea, and I think is probably the most important, is to propose other solutions to the problem. Okay, and this makes sense because if we deny the cost and we deny the solution, the proposed solutions, right? We must be able to introduce a better solutions based on what I believe to be the causes of the addiction, because the problem still exists. All right, if the problem still exists, then there has to be the causes for it. Okay, right. So basically, this is what we did the last time, and okay. Now, here's a little bit about what makes up a good thesis statement. Okay, so a good thesis statement should have this characteristics. All right, number one, it should not be too broad. All right, if it is too broad, then you can sort of look at this as painting something that has no border in it, right? Okay, you see, basically you have no idea how much you have to paint. All right, the process keeps going forever. So that's the problem when the thesis is too broad. Okay, basically you don't know how much you have to explain. It's too broad. Next, it should not be too narrow, right? Because if it is too narrow, then you won't have the opportunity to write enough. Okay, for example, if I were to go back to my previous example, and if I say, for example, banning cigarette advertising, um, sorry, if I go back and I say some things like um, addiction to cigarette could stem from lack of regulation. All right, for example, if I go back and I rewrite my thesis statement to be something like that, then the only question that it raises is how is it that lack of regulation could contribute to the addiction? Okay, and what do we do? Okay, so basically, we don't owe the audience very much. Okay, and the amount of support that we need to provide will be very, very small, and we might risk not meeting the worst requirement. Okay. Right. Unreasonable. It's quite important. Okay, so we don't want any statement that is unreasonable because is 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 going to stop people from proceeding any further. All right, when they see something that doesn't sound reasonable or doesn't make sense to them, they don't want to consider any further because they probably don't want to be putting up with some of the baloney. All right, so some of the nonsense. Okay, right. So make sure that your main idea is reasonable, right? Okay, underdeveloped. So what is it? Anything that makes your main ideas unclear, underdeveloped. It could be in terms of grammatical structures. If it's underdeveloped, it's a complete sentence, all right? Any underdeveloped statement is not clear, and when it is not clear, then um, we will not have what we call mutual understanding. Okay, so the audience might be thinking in the wrong way from us. Okay. All right. We might be thinking one way. The audience might be looking at from a different perspective, and we end up, talking about two different things. Okay. All right. Next, let's talk about different kinds of outline. Okay, so we have an informal outline, okay, and a formal outlines. All right, so informal outlines, what is it? So let's have a look at this questions. Yeah. We are asked to evaluate the proposal to replace the current ban on street food vendors in Bangkok. Should we lift the ban? Why or why not? Okay. Yep, it's quite straightforward, isn't it? All right. You guys know what it means by street food vendors, right? This is quite popular in Bangkok. Probably the main reasons why people come to visit Bangkok, right? And there is a ban on street food vendors. So basically, the authority um, they don't allow merchants, sellers to sell their food or items on the sidewalk, right? Okay. So the question is, do you like the ban? Do you think the ban should be in place, or we should revoke it, lift it, okay? Make the ban disappear so people can go back to sell this stuff on the sidewalk. All right. Don't worry, we don't have to brainstorm for this, okay? We just want to have a look at some of the outline that we can do, okay? So basically you see a bullet point. All right, so after we have brainstorm, we should be able to um, decide on our main idea, our thesis statement. So here is an example. Lifting the ban will not only benefit the owners of street food vendors, but also employees in many office buildings. Okay, so it looks like the person who wrote this actually prefer to have street food vendors because he sees the benefits. Okay. And according to the plan, you will see that the next paragraph that he is going to develop will be about problems with street food vendors. Okay, those are the problems. Okay, the problems. So after introduction, it's going to talk about problems. Number three, how street food vendors work. Number four, benefits of street food vendors. Okay, for owners and benefit of street food vendors for employees. Okay, now when you see this list, can you tell me if this is a logical order? Do you like the order or you think it should be ordered differently? Okay, if you ask me, okay, I think the order is not quite logical. Why? Because I think before we should talk about problems with frequent vendor, we should explain, um, you know, um, to those who don't know what street food vendor is. We need to explain street food vendors to those people first. So, if you ask me, this should be the second. Sorry, this should be the second paragraph. Okay, and this could be the third paragraph. Okay, now that people know what it is, we can talk about problems. Okay. And actually, before we can talk about benefits, I think if you ask me, all right, let me just write it on a blank space here. Okay, so I actually agree with the first sentence, all right? But I think the second paragraph should be how it works. And the third paragraph should be about problems with street food vendors. Okay. And before we go and talk about benefits of street food vendors, we should propose some solutions. Okay. And five. Okay, so once we propose some solutions, then people should be on our side now. Okay, because we deal with the negative aspects of street food vendors already. Okay. Now it will be easier to convince people to have this, okay, because we have already dealt with the negative aspects of street food vendors. Okay. And number five, we can the following paragraph could be about benefits. Okay, so we basically start with the introduction, talk about what street food vendor is, talk about the problems that are associated with street food vendors, and then we talk about solutions, talk about benefits. And if there's nothing else we should talk about, then we can just um, summarize everything. So conclusion. Okay, so you will see that it is quite easy for you to make some amendments, okay, to the order. All right, it's just a matter of getting an eraser and rub things off, or just rewrite, making a. It doesn't require so much effort. Um, uh, in case of, rewriting the whole paragraph. Okay, so making outline is just part of the planning, and it allows us to make any necessary adjustments before we actually do the writing part. Imagine if you have written a paragraph says, okay, first you talk about your main idea, okay? Then talk about the problems that are associated with street food vendor. And then you talk about how it works. But you want to change your mind, all right? You like, hey, I think we should talk about how street food vendors work first. It's not going to be easy now, right? Because you have wasted, you know, maybe 20 minutes doing all of that. Okay. If you are writing on a piece of paper, um, you have written, maybe 150 words or something like that, and you have to erase everything that you have written so far. Okay. Imagine how painful that would be. Okay. How much time it would cost you to erase everything and rewrite everything all over again. Okay, so I suggest that you only start writing or typing when you are certain about how you're going to develop your storyline. Okay, you have to be certain. If you're not certain, just keep on working on your outline. Okay, make sure that you have everything in the order that you believe is logical. Okay, and once we have this outline, okay, we don't make any more change. Once we have this, then we can start writing by following exactly what we have on the list. Okay, all good. Um, Next. Oh, yeah, never mind. Okay, next. Formal outline is much more detailed. It includes specific supports, specific supporting details and several levels of support. Here's a part of a formal outline for the same assignment. Okay, so a formal outline is nothing but an outline with extra depth, okay, for each of the main idea. Okay, so based on the same questions, right? Okay, suppose that is a statement is given like so. Okay, lifting the ban will not only benefit the owners of street food vendors, but also employees in many office buildings. Okay, so suppose we stick to the same main idea. All right. And next, we want to talk about problems. Okay. Now, if you spend extra time thinking about what you believe to be a problem, you can make a subset, just an extra list. Okay. So we could have problems with the sidewalk or the pavements uh, being dirty. Okay. Okay. And you see, there are there are subcategory to this. Food scraps littering. Okay, this will help to remind us about how we should go about explaining the point or the first problem. You know, the pavements getting dirty. Okay, right. The next problem is that it might be unfair. So what does that mean exactly? The owners don't pay taxes, and their stands block the entrance of legal shops. Okay, so the issue with this is, you know, when you imagine when you have, let's say you own a shop, a legal one, a registered one, okay, and um, someone just built their stand, okay? They come out of nowhere and they just park right in front of your shop, okay? To sell their stuff, okay? And your customers have difficulty entering your shop because of the structures that might be, you know, blocking the entrance. Okay, so it's quite unfair because unlike you, they don't pay the rent, okay? They probably don't even pay taxes. You pay taxes, but you know, you get taken advantage of, you know, by street food vendors. All right. Uh, Accident could be another, you know, possible issue, right? So carpool over, what does that mean? So I think they were looking at the fact that when you have street food vendors and say if you're a driver and you want you see your favorite food stand from afar and you want you want to uh you want to buy the stuff, right? So you uh what you probably do if you on the rightmost lane, okay, then you would try to um quickly move to the left. Okay, so you will have to cut in front of other cars on the different lanes that might be going at high speed, and there is a risk for accident, you know, when you do that. Okay, um, and that's what they mean carpool over. Yeah, because street food vendors they don't have their own parking space for the customers to park the cars. So basically, if the customers are drivers, okay, the only way for the customers to stop to buy the food is to pull over, you know, right in the traffic, right? This should be dangerous. The structures could injure pedestrians. So we are talking about how the structures of the food stand, the could be the umbrella, could be the stand, and it could cause people to trip over. Okay, the piece of metal that's make up the umbrella could poke into their eyes when they walk to it if they're not careful. All right. So basically, it's just more detailed, right? A formal outline is a more detailed version of a formal outline. Okay. So what's the good about this? Why should we make it more detailed? Well, it will speed up your writing. Think about this. Most of the time, when you are complaining uh about how long it would take you to complete one essay, it's not really about your ability to translate, right, from Thai to English. It's not really about that. Nowadays you have what you have the AI. Before the AI, you have Google Translate, right? Okay. So the main thing, the main problem that stop you from um making it through your essay is that you don't plan carefully. I mean, you don't plan carefully, you get stuck. You know, it's kind of like you headed towards the directions that you don't see how it's going to end. Okay. So if you have chosen the wrong path from the beginning, it's going to be difficult all the way through. Okay. So an outline, you know, creating an outline is kind of like having a look at Google Map to see the route for you to go from one place to another. Okay, so think about it when you um, open Google Map, right, and you select your destination. All right, it will shows you different routes, right, how you can go from where you are to your destination, right? The different routes, and you can choose any route, and each route will have its pros and cons, right? Certain routes might be shorter in distance, okay, but it might have some congestion, and the congestion might be the reason why this route might take longer than the other route, which could be even longer in distance, but because of less congestion, or following the other route might save you some time. Okay. So basically it shows you different routes, okay, and it also tells you uh directions, give you direction where to turn. Okay. Right. So if you have all this information, you basically don't have to, keep looking at the sign, as you drive. You don't have to stop to think whether you're on the right path or not. Okay, because everything has been laid out for you. You basically just follow the directions. Yeah, that's what it is when it comes to writing. Yeah, you just basically follow the directions that you have already created for yourself. All right. Okay, so basically that's what I want to talk about regarding outline. Are there any questions so far? Am I making myself clear, or am I confusing any of you? Let me just have a look at the chat to see if you guys have sent me any message. Okay, if you need me to clarify any points, just let me know. Right. All right. Now let's talk about organizational strategy. So what is organizational strategies? If you go back to outline, okay, outline is nothing but a list of ideas, a list of supporting ideas that you want to include in your essay, okay, based on your desired order, okay, right? Based on your desired order. So basically, you don't really have a criteria or rule to decide on, hey, what should come first, what should come next. Right now, it's just based on your preference. There's no rules to govern it. Okay, I'm going to introduce you some of the rules you can follow. Okay, so that you can make your outline, more easy to follow, more easy to understand. Okay. So the first order that you could use is chronological order. Okay, so what exactly is chronological order? All right, so chronological order is nothing but following the timeline. What happened first will be discussed first. What happened next will be discussed next. What happened last will be discussed last. So, what kind of writing is chronology or chronological order is most suitable? All right. So, I think the type of writing where chronology is most suitable would be describing a changes over time, describing a line graph, bar chart, okay, where you can see change in quantity with respect to time. Right. Have you seen a graph that shows you changes in the amount of carbon emissions in some cities, okay, over 5 years period, something like that? Okay, so you will see a line going zigzag, going up and down, up and down. All right, some years the carbon emissions goes up, some years the carbon emissions goes down, some years the emissions remain relatively stable, something like that, right? Okay. Yeah, if you ever have to describe a chart, all right, just follow the time order. Start with the earliest period, the earliest point in your chart, and make your way to the end, to the latest event. Start from the first event and make your way to the last event, going from left to right. Okay, following the timeline. All right, that will be the most effective. Okay, right. Cause effect. And I don't want to talk too much about cause effect just yet. I think I want to talk about this. This would be very important to order of importance. Okay. Now, imagine that imagine you have to convince someone about, you know, let's think about some issue. Okay. Suppose somebody challenge you, somebody asks you to try to go against those who want to shut down the zoo. Okay. So here's the issue. Somebody wants to shut down the zoo. Okay. And you're given an assignment. Okay. To to challenge these people idea. So basically you have to make them change their mind. All right. You want them to want to have the zoo. Okay. All right. But right now they can only see the negative sides of the zoo, right? You want them, you want to sort of um psychologically influence these people so that they develop a more positive attitudes towards the zoo. All right. How are you going to do that? Well, of course, you need to talk about reasons why, we should have the zoos, correct? Yeah. Basically, you want to talk about the benefits. Okay. But if you choose to explain the most important point first, then suppose you have 3 points. Okay, A, B, C. Let's say A is the most important. But if you talk about the most important point first, then the other points become less interesting. Okay, because the most important point has already been explained. And once they've understood, they're like, okay, I can come up with my own judgment. All right, you have already given me the most important point. I don't need to waste my time listening or reading other less important points, you know? Okay. Um, so maybe the idea of starting with the most important reason is not very good because it will make the following points becoming less interesting, less attractive. Just like when you watch sport, all right? They usually put the main event last, right? They put the main event last because if they put the main event first, then audience uh will not care about the following events because they're here for the main events. Once they have watched the main events, then they can go home now. They don't need to waste their time watching other small events, right? Okay, so you sort of want to order your reasoning, starting with the least important reason. Okay, so if you have A, B, C, A being the most important, B being the second most important, and C is the least important, you want to start with C first. Okay, start with C, and then you build up upon the strength of your reasoning. Okay, so you start with C, and then B, and then A. So your most important will be the last uh, reason you want to talk about. Okay. Why should we do this? Well, I gave you the first reasons why we should follow this orders, right? Okay, you want the main event to be the last, okay? But also, most people tend to remember the last things spoken better than the first thing spoken, right? Okay, and by following this order, you improve the chance of them remembering the most important point better because you say it last. Okay, yeah, that's another reasons why. The other reasons why we should use order of importance is about the discourse marker that you use in your writing. You know words like more importantly, furthermore, on top of everything, okay? You don't just randomly use them, okay? Like if you want to say, hey, we should not shut down the zoo because of three reasons. First, the zoo will provide zoos serve as the place to provide education for young people so they can learn to appreciate the value of wildlife. Um, and furthermore, zoos can prevent some species from extinction. And last reason is, you know, zoos could make up a good source of income for the country. You know, see, this my use of this course marker is not that effective because the most important reasons has already been put first. Okay. And when I say on top of everything, people are not very convinced because my last point has nothing to do with the, has nothing to do with animals. When we talk about zoo, people concerned about animals, but my last point has nothing to do with animals, right? So it should not be the most important reasons. Okay, so my use of on top of everything is not very effective in that sense. Now, let's try to reorder it. Okay, for example, one of the main reasons why we should have a zoo is because yes, it generate income for the country or for the city, for that matter. All right. Okay. And more importantly, um, the zoo can prevent some species from extinction, right? Because they can provide security for the wild animals. And on top of everything, okay, um, the zoos can encourage young people to have a positive attitude towards animals. So when they grow up, they will love animals and will want to save them. Okay, you see? So this is a much better way to order your reasonings. Okay, starting with the least important and make your ways up to the most important point. Okay. Next, for comparison and contrast, right? Um, I don't think that really matters for now. Oh, yes, 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 I do. I actually do. I think this is another important uh uh this is another important organizational strategies. Right. Okay. So what exactly is comparison and contrast? Okay. Compares means similarities, right? Contrast means focusing on the differences. If you compare two things, you look for similarities between two things. If you contrast two things, you look for differences across those things. Um, let's have a look at an assignment here. This is not very clear. Let me just, okay. Right. Don't worry. I think I'll just create my own example. It's easier to understand. Okay, so suppose you are you, you have an assignment to write your reviews reviews on two cell phone models. Reviews on two cell phone models. Okay. That's it. That's what you have to do. Review on two cell phone models. Okay, any models you want. Okay, any models you want. And okay, let's say I pick two models, right? First model is iPhone 15 Pro Max. And the other one is Samsung, I don't know, Samsung A7 2018. Right. Okay. How would you how would you organize your content? Right? How would you write your reviews? Okay. There are two ways to organize your content. Okay? Two ways. Two ways, two methods to organize your content. Okay? One is to use block technique. And two is to use point by point technique. Block technique and point by point technique. Now, what's the difference? Okay, let's talk about block technique first. Okay, for block techniques, you tend to have a topic sentence. Okay, and a topic sentence focusing on one on one variables. Okay, on one variables. Okay, topic sentence focusing on one variables with subsequent. Okay, with subsequent sentences. Explaining different aspects. Oops, sorry. All right, so you have a topic sentence focused on one variable with subsequent sentences explaining different aspects of that variable, okay? Of that variable. Okay, that's block techniques. What about point by point? Okay, so point by point is different because for point by point, the focus the focus is on the different aspects, not the variable. Focus on the different aspects. Okay? So the pros and cons, right? The pros and cons of block techniques and point by points are quite different. So for block techniques, the pros of block technique is easy to control the number of paragraphs. Easy to control number of paragraph. Okay, but the cons or the disadvantage of this is it might cause readers are easy to control the number of paragraph. It might cause readers to make extra effort. Might cause readers to make extra effort to remember all the details. Okay. Now, as for point by point, the pros is, it's quite is the reverse of block tech. So readers don't have to make much effort to memorize. Reader doesn't have to make much efforts to memorize. All right, but the drawbacks of the point by point is can be difficult control the number of paragraph. So that's the drawback of point by point. Okay, the time is 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Okay, and I'd like to announce a 10 minutes break. All right, we come back and we will look at an example about how to use different techniques to organize our paragraph. Right, I'll see you in 10 minutes. Hello, welcome back. บ๊ายบายครับได้เลยครับโอเค let me just share my screen real quick. Okay, guys. All right. So, so these are the pros and cons of the two different techniques. Then, now let us try to use the first technique to develop. But before that, I think we should do some brainstorming first, okay? So if we're going to write some reviews, let's do some brainstorming first. Brainstorming. Okay, so if you're going to write a review for two cell phone, what should we be focusing on? Yeah? So maybe in terms of battery, okay? You want to know about the battery capacity. All right, battery capacity. What else? Repairability, battery capacity, repairability. What else? Um, maybe uh, battery capacity, repairability, memory. How about that? Memory capacity. Okay. So when we do reviews, we want to just focus on these three aspects. Okay, so three aspects. Right. Now, if we use block techniques, okay, if we use block techniques, then our topic sentence will focus on only one variable. So in this case, it could be either iPhone 15 Pro Max or Samsung A7 2018. Could be either of them. Okay. Suppose I want to talk about iPhone 15 Pro Max first. Then my block technique would look something like this. Right. So for block techniques, I could go some things like uh, the main focus would be on iPhone 15 Pro Max. Okay, that would be like the main idea or the thesis, okay, which is main idea. iPhone 15 Pro Max. Okay. And then my major support would be battery capacity, right? Battery capacity. And I could talk about the battery capacity of my iPhone 15, for example. I don't know, 4,000 milliamp hour. Okay. 7 hours at idle and 4 to 5 hours for social media like Line, YouTube, Facebook, okay, and maybe 3 to 4 hours for gaming. All right. Repairability. Repairability. Okay. Um, Parts are expensive and need to be imported. Memory capacity. So I might say 512 gigabyte to store data, with, I don't know, uh, maybe 2 GB RAM. Okay, so that's basically an outline for iPhone 15 Pro Max in block technique, right? Okay. Now, this next paragraph, the next outline will be for Samsung A7 2018. And again, to go through the same list of, you know, profile that we want to talk about battery capacity. Okay. The different will be the details. Okay. Like for Samsung A7 2018, with regard to battery capacity, we have I don't know, 2000 milliamp hours, which allow us to use maybe 3.5 hours at idle. And everything just get half, right? So maybe 2 to 2.5 for social media. Yeah. The example, blah, blah, blah. And 1.5 to 2 hours for gaming. Repairability. Okay. And I say parts are readily available locally. Parts are readily available locally. Right. For memory capacity, maybe 128 gigabyte to store data with 1 GB RAM. Okay, so that is it. That's it. Okay, so this is how you use block technique. So you will see that it's easy for you as a writers, right? Because the number of paragraphs will just depend on the number of variables. In this case, we have only 2 variables because we are only comparing iPhone 15 Pro Max with Samsung A7 2018. Okay, so um, it's easy for us, right? But is it easy for the reader to follow? Well, let's just say right now, we have 3 aspects. Okay, so it's not so much for someone to remember. But if we want to talk about more than 3 aspects, say 10 aspects, now our readers will be overloaded with a lot of information. So by the time they have finished reading a paragraph about iPhone 15 Pro Max, they will already have forgotten some of the key features or details. It is so much for them to remember. Okay. And why do they have to remember all those details? Because at the end, they have to make comparisons between the other models. Okay. And if they forget that they can't make comparisons, and this will result in them having to go over your article one more time. Okay, try to read everything. So this kind of techniques to organize your content might cause your readers to have to read your article twice. Okay, twice. Now, let's have a look at another technique called point-by-point technique. Okay, point by point. So for point by point, um, we don't organize we don't organize paragraph based on the variables, but based on the aspects. So if we have three aspects, we're going to have three paragraphs. If you have four aspects, then four paragraph, five aspects, five paragraph. In this case, we only have three aspects, so only three paragraph. So our first paragraph, the main idea, is about capacity. I mean, battery capacity. Okay, so battery capacity. And underneath this main idea will be a direct comparisons between the battery capacity of iPhone 15 Pro Max and Samsung A7 2018. So it's going to be some things like this. Uh, 4,000 milliamp hour for iPhone 15 Pro Max, but only 2,000 milliamp hour for 2018 milliamp hour for a Samsung A7 2008. But that's it. And then we have the main idea for the next paragraph. That's about repairability. Okay. And we basically compare iPhone 15 against Samsung A7. Parts are expensive and not locally available. Parts are expensive and not locally available. Unlike Samsung A7 2008. Okay, I think there was a brief disconnection. All right, sorry about that, guys. I think the connection has just been reestablished, so I'll be sharing my screen again. All right, so you guys should be able to see my screen right now. Okay, let's carry on. Think. Is everything all good? Right. Memory capacity. So we can say here that iPhone 15 Pro Max with memory capacity of 128 GB. No, 512 GB can store more data than the one than than, oops, Samsung A7 2018 with only 128 gigabyte of memory capacity. Okay, so iPhone 15 Pro Max with memory capacity of 512 gigabyte can store more data than Samsung A7 2018 with only 120 gigabyte of memory capacity. Okay, so that is it. Right. So you see, it is quite easy, when we organize our content like this, because the users or the readers can see a direct comparisons between two different models. Okay, suppose the readers or the audience, they have say that is regarding battery. Read two paragraphs. If it's split, then it okay. And while they are reading each paragraph, there will be details that are irrelevant to them. Like if I'm buying a phone and the only thing I care about the phone that I buy is battery capacity. If I'm if I'm reading somebody who write using block technique, I have to read the first paragraph and then I have to read the second paragraph just to compare the difference between the battery capacity of two different models, right? It's a waste of time. But with point by point, If I want to just focus on battery, I can just read one paragraph that talks about battery. Okay. So it saves me a lot of time. Right. Okay. Now, if I need to look at more than one thing, say battery capacity and repairability, well, then I'll just read two paragraphs. Right. Okay. Um, but by using block technique, it doesn't matter what are the different characteristics you want to focus on. You still need to read two paragraphs. Okay. All right. So that's the major difference. Now, when you organize your essay, like when you have to write an essay to answer questions like to what extent do you agree or disagree with a with a particular statement? Okay. Um, you can also adopt this strategy. Okay. Block techniques are easy. Okay. Basically, you will have not more than three paragraphs if you use block techniques. Okay. It's easy to organize, easy to the transitional words are quite easy because in one paragraph there will not be any contradiction. Okay, the relationships across all the sentence are usually cause effects, uh, clarification. That's it, right? As for the point by point, the relationship of sentences in a paragraph is more diverse. You could have cause effects, you could have clarification, and you can also have contradiction, right? So I think it's more challenging to use point by point technique, right? But point by point is also a good organizational strategy. Okay, if you have to contrast and compare two different things in order to make a decision. All right. Okay, so I think this is it for chapter 2, right? So let's okay, so just to recap, what did we do for chapter 2? What did we talk about? Okay. Chapter 2 is all about writing a thesis statement. And thesis statement is the main idea of your essay. It's the most important sentence in your entire work. The next thing we talk about in this chapter is uh, outline techniques. Okay. The third thing we talk about in this chapter is organizational strategy. Okay. So organizational strategy and outlining, there goes hand in hand. Okay. Right. Your outlining is most effective when you know how to adopt organizational strategy. All right. Now let's try to answer some of the questions here. Okay. Well, let's do it together. Number one, this is just a paraphrase of the topic. How true is that? Thesis is just a paraphrase of the topic. Well, it's not true, is it? It's false. It's not just a paraphrase, guys. Okay, a paraphrase is saying the same thing in different way. This is not about saying the same thing in different way. This is about what you believe to be your answer to the question. Okay, if your assignment asks a question, then your thesis is the answer to that question. Okay, um, so it's the answer to this questions, and it needs to be developed. Okay, just because you say some things like, "Hey, I think we should ban cigarette advertising." Doesn't mean people have to be convinced by you, right? Okay, so main idea is just showing your stance on the issue, right? It does not yet show how to justify your claim. So people still need to read your body paragraphs just to see where you have a good justification. Next, it's important to narrow down focus topic. Yes, it's important. All right, because if you don't, then your main idea could be too broad, and that's not good. Next, you can ask a question out of your focus topic to form a thesis. Okay, ask a question out of your focus topic. So what does that mean? So once you have a focus topic, right, uh, it's already eliminate some of the irrelevant details, right? Then you can turn that into a question. And the answer to that question will become a good thesis, good main idea. That is true. Number four, the thesis is your answer to the question. This is your answer to the question. Yes, of course, the answer to the question. Number five, you can use phrases in your thesis. Can you use phrases in your thesis? No, right? Don't use phrase in your thesis. Don't do that. Number six, an outlining will prevent you from going off topic. Outlining will stop you from going off topic. Is that true? Yes, it is. Number seven, you need formal outlining for every kind of writing. Formal outlining for every kind of writing. Is that true? Yes, it is. You need formal outlining. Number eight, a good thesis should. Um, I like to say yes, but it's also depends on the time you have. All right, if you have a time limit, then maybe informal outlining might do a better job. Number eight, a good thesis should not be too broad or too narrow or too unreasonable or too underdeveloped. What do you think? I think this is true. That's it. Done. Oh, oh, I should not have written on it. Hang on. Can I still? Oh my God, I should not have clicked save. Yeah, all the changes, all the drawing is permanent. I don't want it to be permanent. Wait, can I still edit the file? Oh no. Well, whatever. It's done. Oh, I still have document file. I can just save it as PDF later. All right. Okay, guys, if you have any questions, just let me know. Otherwise, let's just move on to the next chapter. All right. So same deal. Before we uh, look at the content, okay, we will do a pre-test just to check your knowledge. So chapter 3 is about body paragraph writing. So let's have a look at the first statement and decide for yourself whether this is true or not. Body paragraph help to make arguments strong and convincing. Body paragraph helps to make arguments strong and convincing. Is that true? That is actually, I don't know. I cannot tell you yet. Number two, body paragraph allows readers to know when a central idea begins and ends. Is it true or not? All right, see for yourself. Think for yourself. Number three, body paragraph have the same structures as the essay. Is that true or not? Number four, the topic sentence must only be at the beginning. Number five, inductive and deductive are two different ways to organize the paragraph. Number six, the inductive style begins with the main idea and evidence follow. Number seven, the deductive begins with the main idea, which is supported by evidence. Number eight, we can use anecdotes in our college assignments. Number nine, we can only use one type of support in our writing. And last one, expert opinions and analysis can be used to validate our thesis. Right. Ready? Now, let's talk about body paragraph. Okay, so previously you talked about main ideas, right? And main idea is nothing but a statement that has to be explained further for people to actually accept your point of view. Okay? So for people to accept your point of view, you need to write your body paragraph in a convincing manner. Okay? Now, body paragraph. Do we need to, how many body paragraph do we need for, one piece of writing? How many body paragraph do we need? Some would say we don't need any body paragraph because the job is to contain all the reasoning and details to justify our claim. Some would say, well, we need three paragraph, first, second, third, first, second, finally. Some would say four paragraph. Some would say two. Some would say no idea. So how many paragraph do we actually need? Well, let's talk about why do we need to start a new paragraph first of all. Okay, I encourage you guys to read the first paragraph and then we have some discussion. Most people would feel overwhelmed and more than a little annoyed when they see the entire essay in one giant paragraph without any effort to break it down into paragraph in order to make it easy for the audiences to see the shift from one idea to another. Okay, so if you don't have any paragraph, just imagine, you have one big body paragraph. Your main idea might take up only one sentence, and the rest of your essay is just one big body paragraph. What happened is it will make it very difficult for your readers to follow because in that paragraph, you might be talking about the causes of the problem, the consequences of the problem, the ineffectiveness of the current solution, um, how the proposed solutions are going to become more effective and efficient. Okay, so you have many ideas that you want to, you know, impart to your audience. You want to send to your audience, but you can't do it using the knowledge and technology that we have, right? And that is to make a phone call to someone. Of course, making a phone call is easy, but to make sure that you cover all the key features, to make sure that you and your audience are on the same page, right? We need to we need to have a paragraph, right? Okay. Now, there's no clear rules to that we can use to determine how many body paragraph we need. But we know one thing. We know that when we start a new paragraph, we actually talk about different things. It might be based on one share concept, like say I want to talk about, you know, uh, benefits of benefits of studying abroad, right? I want to talk about the benefits of studying abroad. I can have three uh, paragraphs on benefits of studying abroad. Okay, I can do that. Right. So each paragraph will show us the transition of idea. Okay, so like one benefit, the first benefit is done. Moving on to the next benefit, we start a new paragraph. Every time we start a new paragraph, we have that we want to tell our readers that, hey, something new is about to take place. Okay? Right. So that's the idea why we start a new paragraph. When we have a new main idea, we have a new topic sentence, we start a new paragraph. And like most essay, body paragraph has three parts. So what one body paragraph consists is a topic sentence. The topic sentence usually be put at the beginning of a paragraph. We have support of the main idea, and we have conclusion that express the main idea. Or uh, okay, conclusion. This may or may not be necessary. That depends on the length of your body paragraph. If it's very long, then it's a good idea to give a quick summary before you move on to the new topic. But if it's not very long, right, it's quite short, then maybe conclusion is not necessary. We can just do one conclusion at the end of the essay. Okay? The paragraph of the last sentence of a body paragraph of the first and second, it can offer a transition to the next paragraph. Okay. So it really depends on how you want to adjust this. Okay. If you are familiar with, you know, uh, uh, a certain style of organizing, like if you want to let your readers know a little bit earlier about what the next paragraph will be about, then your last sentence of a body can sort of tell your readers what they can expect to see in the following section or the following paragraph. Okay. So if you think about it, body paragraph is made up kind of like an essay. Okay. It's made up kind of like an essay because an essay will consist of main idea. And main idea is justified by a bunch of body paragraph. Okay. And once the main idea has been justified, it becomes a conclusion. But it's not the same as conclusion that we talk about at school because um, yeah, this conclusion uh, yeah, well, uh, I hope you get the point, right? Right. Now let's have a look at our example, okay, of body paragraph. The African country of Democratic Republic of Congo has had a turbulent past. That's the topic, right? It was officially declared a Belgian territory by King Leopold in 1895. The country called Belgian Congo after 1908 and was under Belgian rule for 65 years. Then in 1960, several years of unrest, Congo was granted independence from Belgium. The country was unstable for several years. Two presidents were elected and they deposed, and there was much arguing about who should run the country and how. Finally, in 1965, a man named Mobutu Sese Seko rose to power, though the country was remarkably rich in resources such as diamond. Under Sese Seko rule, the people live in a complete squalor. Still, Sese Seko brought some stability to the region. He ruled for 32 years until people finally rebelled in 1997. Okay, so let's see how it follows the concept of writing a body paragraph, right? Okay, so first, a body paragraph should have what? A topic sentence, right? Where is our topic sentence? Oops. Okay, the topic sentence is right here. So the main idea of this paragraph is about the turbulent past. What is turbulent past? It's the problems in the past. Whose problem? Problem of the country named Congo. Okay, so once the reader see this statement, they know what this paragraph will be about. It's going to be about the problems that existed in the past. Okay? That is the support of the main idea. All right. So everything that you see here is the support of the main idea. All right, for example, this couple of lines talks about how Belgium was colonized by, sorry, was telling us how the Congo was colonized by Belgium before it gained its independence. Okay, but under the ruling of Belgium, um, there was a lot of trouble in the country. It didn't say exactly what trouble. All right, it just says there were some trouble when Belgians were colonizing Congo. All right. Two presidents were elected and deposed, and there was much arguing over who should run the country and how. Okay, so so once the country gained independence, there's some problems in the politics because two presidents were elected and then they were removed from duty. So something happened, something bad happened. Finally, in 1965, a man named Mobutu Sese Seko rose to power. And though the country was remarkably rich in resources such as diamond, under Sese Seko rules, people live in complete squalor. All right, so all these green highlights are about the problems that Congo were facing back in the days. Okay, and this clearly explain, justify the main idea because it did not beat around the bush. It goes directly on point. Let's talk about um, turbulent past or trouble in the past. Okay, this conclusion. As for the conclusion, Okay. The conclusion sort of it follows the logic of their preceding statement, which are the support, right? The last statement, I mean, the last sentence that we see in support is, even though the country was quite rich in resources such as diamond, under Seigo rules, people live in the complete squalor. Okay, so it ends sort of with a problem, and this last sentence here basically focus on the positive aspect of Seigo. Seigo brought some stability to the region. He ruled for 32 years until people finally rebelled in 1997. If you ask me, this is not a very good conclusion for a body paragraph, but it can be a conclusion, yes. Why? Because it relates back to what has been said earlier. All right. Okay, now you guys should have an idea of what is it that make up a body paragraph, okay? So again, a body paragraph consists of a topic sentence, which is a sentence that control idea controlling word, okay? And it needs to be support, needs to have further information, okay? Support is the justification part, okay? It's the part that uh will 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 decide for you whether your readers will be convinced or not. And last is conclusion. Conclusion is not always necessary for short paragraph, but for long paragraph, it might be necessary just to help refresh people's memory. Okay, guys, let's do exercise one. Okay, well, maybe let's first take a 10 minutes break before we come back to do exercise one. All right, see you in 10 minutes. All right, guys, let's continue, shall we? Okay, let's have a look at exercise one. Okay, so we have four sentences, and your job is to rearrange them, okay, to form a good logical paragraph. Okay, and once you arrange them, don't forget to use all of these connectors. I like to call them connectors, right? Okay, well, that's one problem because one of these connector has already been used, so I'll just cross it off like that. Okay, so just imagine that this does not exist. Okay, so I'd like to give you guys 3 minutes to try to rearrange all the sentences to form a good logical body paragraph. All right, after 3 minutes, you can show me your answer, and after that, I'll walk you through. All right, guys. So you guys have any idea? Don't worry. Okay. So let us have a look at the first sentence. It says the fares will be very expensive to the point where commuters no longer see the advantage of using public transport. Okay. So in order to determine whether this should be a main idea or not, you need to ask yourself a question. Does it beg questions like why? Or are there any example? Okay, if it beg this kind of question, then maybe this is a good candidate for a main idea. All right. The fare will be very expensive to the point where commuters no longer see the advantage of using public transport. Okay, so does it beg questions like why? Yeah. Have a look at the next sentence. They could return to the use of personal vehicles, and the history will repeat itself. Does it beg questions why? Third one, there are many other more sustainable alternatives to the rise in petrol. Again, does it beg questions why? Last one, a rise in the price of petrol could make public transportation less attractive to the public. Does it beg a questions why? Yeah. So when you think about this, it becomes almost very clear that the last sentence, right, is most suitable for questions why. Let's try to turn this into a questions, right? If I turn this into a question, it will sound like why is it that a rise in the price of petrol could make public transportation less attractive to the public? Okay, why is the rise in petrol making public transportation less attractive to the public? Why? Okay, and the answer could be number one, right? Okay, yeah, the answer is number one. Okay, if the answer to the question is number one, then the connector that we can use is going to be vehicles. All right. So let's write it down. A rise in the price of petrol would make public transportation less attractive to the public. A rise in the price of petrol could make public transportation less attractive to the public. Then I could put a full stop here because the sentence is already very long. And I can say, this is because the fare will be very expensive. The fare will be very expensive to the point where commuters. No longer. See the advantage of using public transport. Okay, right. So now it becomes clear that number two is the result of number one because number one happened, number two happened. So we can say as a result, right? As a result, they could return to the use of personal vehicles. And the history will repeat itself. Okay, right. Now, this third sentence should serve as the concluding sentence for this paragraph, right? So we can say, by examining the issue more closely, there are many other more sustainable alternatives to the rise in petrol. Right. Okay. So this is how it works, basically. Okay. Okay. Moving on to topic sentence. Okay, so far you guys have learned what a body paragraph consists of, okay? And you now see some of the connectors that we learned from Begins 2 being used in a paragraph, all right, to connect two sentences with cause-effect relationships. Okay. Now let's talk about topic sentence. If you remember what when we talk about block techniques, okay, as the organizational strategy. Okay, a topic sentence is like a mini statement. It's a sentence that tells your readers what this paragraph is all about. So yeah, it's a mini statement. Sorry, it's a mini thesis statement. Okay, if control is within that paragraph only. Unlike this statement of the essay, the control of this statement is throughout the entire essay. Okay, so every body paragraph has to comply with the main of the thesis statement of your essay. Okay, whereas topic sentence, right, is power is within the paragraph where it exists. Okay. Um, so let's have a look at some of the key characteristics that your topic sentence should have. So first, it should make an assertion about the subject. And this assertion can be fact or opinion. Number two, be general enough to encompass all of the ideas in the paragraph. Be general enough to encompass all of the ideas in the paragraph. All right. Okay. Now let's talk about where we can put our topic sentence. Now, topic sentence can be placed at two locations. All right. It could be at the beginning of your paragraph. So basically the first sentence of your body paragraph. But it can also be the last sentence as well. Right. All right. So it can either begin your paragraph or finish your paragraph. So how do we decide? All right. How do I know whether I should put my topic sentence at the beginning or whether I should put my topic sentence at the end of the paragraph? Well, let's talk about two different formats known as deductive and inductive. Okay, so deductive and inductive formats. This is just two different methods to organize a paragraph. Okay, two different methods to organize paragraph. Now, deductive method. Okay, this is about presenting your main idea first, sort of starting with your claim, and then you provide justification or explanation as to why people should accept your claim. Right? That's deductive. Now, inductive is the other way around. You start off with a bunch of sentences that don't seem to be related to each other. Okay? But in the end, your reader, depending on how you know, how you develop your idea, in the end, your readers will understand how all those ideas are connected. Right? So inductive format, you can think of it as watching movie, you know? When you watch a movie, you don't know exactly what's going on, right? When you watch a movie, the first scenes might be totally unrelated to the conclusion of the movie. Okay. But as you keep on watching, you begin to be able to connect the dots and you understand of what the first scene is all about, how the first scene is related to every other scene, which leads to the conclusion of your movie. Okay. It's like that. So inductive, similar to watching movie. Deductive is different. Okay. Deductive is similar to scientific reasoning. You start with a claim and you try to prove to your readers why they should accept the claim. So you need to present your underpinning theory. Okay, what we use as your underpinning theory. Something like that. Okay. Now, the two most common ways to organize paragraphs are based on logical reasoning strategies. One is to present a general idea first and then support it with specific supporting evidence and examples. Right? The other is to begin with evidence and example and come to a conclusion that is drawn from it. All right. Now, nothing is better than a good examples, right? Let's have a look at the deductive paragraph first of all. Okay. So let's read this. Thomas Edison is a genius. Whenever there is discussion about intelligence, Most people would associate it with benchmarks such as IQ score or school grades. But that may not always be the case for some people who may possess neither of those, as long as they can change the world with their knowledge and skills. Thomas Edison was deprived of education as a young child and never went to any school or college, yet he became the world's greatest inventor for introducing the first incandescent light that allows home and building to be illuminated during nighttime like never before. Thomas Edison, therefore, deserves to be called a genius. Okay, so um, like I said, for a deductive paragraph, you usually begins with a claim like this. All right, let me just switch the color to maybe green. All right, so this is your claim. So if somebody wants you to believe that Thomas Edison is a genius, but you have no reasons yet why you should believe that this guy is a genius. Okay, as you read on, okay, he tries to um, present to you the idea, uh, all right, IQ score and school grades. Okay, so what is it? Is he trying to use this as an underpinning theory? Actually, no. Okay. Turns out what he's trying to tell you is that IQ score and school grades should not be used to judge somebody's intelligence because the systems is quite new, right? Human have long history, okay? And the world has become the way it is, you know, because of the discovery of smart scientists, smart people, all right, who walks the earth way before the concept of IQ score and school grades even came to existence. All right, Isaac Newton, for example, right? He was when he was born, there was no such thing as IQ or intelligent quotient, right? Forget about Isaac Newton, people like Plato's, people like, all the great Greek philosophers. There probably no school grades back then, and the language they spoke back then were not English. Okay, so the writer's trying to convince us not to use IQ score or school grades to judge somebody's intelligence. Okay, so what is it that he want us to accept as a method to judge somebody's intelligence? Well, he's telling us that um, as long as they can change the world with the knowledge and skills. So this seems to be the condition that the writer want us to accept as a method to judge somebody's intelligence. So basically, the writer doesn't want us to judge people's intelligence based on school grades or IQ, but based on the impact that he has on the world, right? If he could change the world with his knowledge and skills, I mean, if he creates something or he introduced something, could be something tangible or intangible, but if it changed the way people understand things, see things, or do things forever in a good way, of course, then he should be considered very highly intelligent. Okay, so basically, this has become the underpinning theory as far as intelligence is concerned. Now, the next thing he's trying to do is he's trying to associate the main character. which is Thomas Edison's, with the proposed theory. Okay, so he said Thomas Edison was deprived of education as a young child and never went to any school or college. Okay, so this is just to show that IQ score and school grades should not be used to judge somebody's intelligence. Just he became the world's greatest inventor for introducing incandescent light that allows home. Okay, so this is a very important message, right? He introduced the first incandescent light that allows home and building to be illuminated during nighttime like never before. Okay, so that is quite important. Okay, incandescent light that allows home and building to be illuminated during nighttime like never before. So this agree with the condition. All right, it's the condition that say if somebody can change the world with the knowledge, then he deserves to be called a genius. And because Thomas Edison did exactly that, right? He introduced incandescent light, and with his new inventions, homes can be illuminated at night like never before. For that matter, we could say that Thomas Edison deserves to be called a genius, should be called a genius. Okay, that's it. Okay, now you should see how deductive paragraphing works. Now, let's compare that with inductive paragraph. Okay, so on the next page. Thomas Edison was the world's greatest inventor for introducing the first incandescent light that allows homes and buildings to be illuminated during nighttime like never before. Okay, so as you can see, this start off with something that is quite uh quite confusing, right? And notice that the first statement is very long, too long to become a claim. Basically, it's just presenting facts. So why is he presenting some random facts to us? Let's carry on. However, this gentleman was deprived of education as a young child. He never went to any school or college. Besides, the IQ theory was not even born in his time yet. So Edison could not boast about his school grades or his IQ test scores, even though that doesn't change the fact that this man has used his knowledge and skills to change the world. And since he has clearly achieved that, there's no reason not to call him a genius. Okay, now if you look at this carefully, you will see that everything that has been written before, everything is here, but it's just ordered in a funny way. All right, right now, we don't have a claim. It's just begin with some random facts. Okay, um, but as you keep on reading, it becomes more and more clear to you that all these details, all this information will lead to one possible conclusion. And that conclusion is Thomas Edison is a genius. Okay? Now, why would anyone want to uh, organize paragraph in such a way, right? Why would anyone want to do this? It seems pretty difficult and quite in a way disorganized, but why anyone would want to do this? Well, the answer is you you can use the first sentence to capture somebody's attention. Okay? Because the first sentence could be anything. It doesn't have to be a claim anymore. It doesn't have to be your opinion anymore. It could be any interesting facts. So if you want to capture somebody's attention, this gives you more opportunity. Okay? Right. So if you read the first sentence here, Thomas Edison was the greatest inventor for introducing the first incandescent light that allows home and building to be illuminated during nighttime like never before. At least for those who don't know who Thomas Edison is, now knows that he is the first man to introduce incandescent light. And that's interesting, right? Compare that with the first sentence. Thomas Edison's a genius. For those who don't know who Thomas Edison is, they probably don't care why uh, why he should be considered a genius, right? So inductive paragraphing will allows you to capture attention with your first sentence, right? Unlike deductive, but to organize is to not to what to organize, but to join sentence together, to use linking devices. This is quite challenging because there's no clear method, there's no clear guideline, unlike the deductive counterparts. Okay, so you have to use that at your own, use your discretion. Okay, um, before deciding on different paragraph format, right? Deductive or inductive. Now let's have a look at exercise number 2. For exercise number 2, what you have to do is try to divide the following text into paragraph and try to underline the topic sentence in each paragraph you create. Okay, so let's have a quick run through at this paragraph. Okay, Sigmund Freud, the father of psychoanalysis, made many contributions to the science of psychology. One of his greatest contributions was his theory of personality. According to Freud, the human personality is made up of 3 parts: the id, the ego, and the superego. The id is the part of the personality that exists only in subconscious. According to Freud, the id has no direct contact with the reality. It is the innermost core of our personality and operates according to the pleasure principle. That is, it seeks immediate gratification for its desires, regardless of external reality or consequences. It is not even aware that external realities or consequences exist. The ego develops from the id and is the part of the personality in contact with the real world. The ego is conscious and therefore aims to satisfy the subconscious desire of the id as best it can within the individual's environment. When it can't satisfy those desires, it tries to control or suppress the ID or the id. The ego functions according to the reality principles. The superego is the third and final parts of the personality to develop. This part of personality contains our moral values and ideals, our notion of what's right and wrong. The superego gives us the rules that help the ego to control the id. For example, a child wants a toy that belongs to another child. He checks the environment to see if it's possible to take that toy. He can and does, then he remembers that it's wrong to take something that belongs to someone else and returns the toy. Uh, Okay, so it is quite clear to you that the goal of this paragraph is to talk about the three components that make up our personalities, right? What are those components? The id, ID, right? The ego and superego. So the main idea of this paragraph is none but this sentence. Okay, so this is your main idea or your thesis. All right. After this, we must have the body paragraph. So the body paragraph, sorry, here. Let me just okay. Starts here. The it is the part of the person that exists in the subconscious. Okay. So that's the topic sentence of the first paragraph. Okay. So this paragraph should focus only on this component called it. Okay. So when it is finished, where does it finish? Finish right here, right? So the new paragraph starts here. And this next paragraph is focusing on the ego. And that's the topic sentence. Right. Where does it finish? It's finished right here. So the third paragraph starts here with these becoming the the topic sentence. All right. So you should now see how we uh, begin a new paragraph, okay? Now let's talk about, so what's the deal with the id, the ego, and superego? So think about this, it is the part in our personality. It's deep inside us. All right. This is the part that generate desire, make us want to do something, make us want to have something. Now, it could be good, it could be bad, depending on what it wants us to want. Okay? If it wants us to steal somebody's belonging, then it's a bad desire, it's a bad thing. But if it wants us to learn some new skills, new knowledge, then it's a good thing, positive desire. So it can generate um, either negative or positive desire. All right. Now, once you have a desire, you have some kind of a demand, and your ego, which is another part of your personality, its job is to meet the demand that is created by it. So ego will tell your brain, will sort of take any information that you have in your memory and try to develop a strategy, okay, in order to satisfy your demand. But then superego will comes in. It will have a look at the demand that your ego is trying to achieve. And if this demand is in conflict with the rules of society or what is considered to be good value of society, then it will stop ego from doing that. An example is in the last paragraph. When a child wants a toy that belongs to his friend, that's when it is generating desire. He then looks left and right, and when he sees nobody, he moves closely, he approaches the toys and take it. Now that's when the ego kicks in. right? Egos develop a strategy to satisfy the demand. So the child took the toy, but then super ego kicks in. And super ego tells the boy that, hey, what he's doing is wrong, right? You should not um, take somebody else belonging. So because super ego kicks in and the boy realized that this is wrong, so he returns the toy. So that's how it works. Okay. So that's it for today, guys. Thank you very much for listening. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave me a message. Um, until next time, take care. Goodbye.